president wants to rein in those greedy corporations, force them to bring their ill-gotten gain back home, save the middle-class voter, shame those bad people seeking to make profit, and then sail the seven seas of accountancy to plunder and defeat all those who seek to subjugate the weak. Or something to that effect. Let us welcome back to MidPoint. He'll be using this in a lecture. Professor of International Business at the R.H. Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland, Peter Morici. Peter, what do you think? Doesn't that pretty much capture everything about the president and what he wants right now with this going after the corporations?
Well, it's great political theater. It's terrible economics. You know, the United States is alone among Western countries and Japan that tax the overseas earnings of its corporations. Not even the French, who the president so wants to emulate, do they tax the overseas earnings of, say, Peugeot. So these are not ill-gotten gains. These are earnings that have paid taxes in the jurisdictions where they earn their profits. For example, GE's operations in France pay French taxes.
Now, here's the thing that you pointed out, and people don't seem to understand. A lot of this money is not simply just sitting in foreign bank accounts somewhere, basically wasting away and getting interest. A lot of this money is reinvested, is it not?
It's either reinvested, that's very important, or it's being held as collateral because what they've done is borrowed some of the money back so they can bring it home. But you know, now the president wants to, in real time, in addition to taxing all of the past earnings that are parked overseas, he wanted to tax in real time at the rate of 14%, which is quite substantial when you look at the actual effective tax rate in the United States. He wants to tax at 14% any foreign earnings, even though they pay taxes abroad. You know, that's absurd. Basically, what he's saying to General Electric, find yourself a French buyer, move out. Paris is more hospitable than Connecticut.
What is the... It's the second time you mentioned Paris.
And that's really a riot when you'd rather be in Paris than Connecticut.
What is the president's obsession with Paris, Peter, with the French?
Well, he seems to think that European statism somehow or other will make America into a prosperous workers' paradise. But let's look at that paradise. It's got 12% unemployment. Europe in generally, it's got countries like Greece falling off the cliff. You know, if we had that kind of democracy here, Mississippi would have 25% unemployment. But I think the good people of Mississippi ought to think about that. But even more so, the good people of Maine, where they are habitual Democrats, I mean, they really ought to think about it. Maine would simply not have a healthcare system anymore. Surely Portugal doesn't.
Yeah, here's something else that you brought up as well, and I think we need to mention it here. This whole tax rate, as you call it, is going to go after and will have an effect on the elderly in this country.
Oh, absolutely. You know, more and more Americans rely on stock investments and dividends from, you know, firms like Procter & Gamble and so forth to fund their retirement because company pensions are gone. Well, this is going to drive down dividends. It's going to drive down stock values. Just like his quantitative easing and printing money and all the rest in Washington, it's coming down very heavily on the elderly. You know, we talk a lot in America about the people between 25 and 54 who are not working. The 1 out of 6 men, the 1 out of 8 that don't look. But did you know that the participation rate among the elderly, the number of old folks that are working is rising? A couple of years ago, I gave a speech at Carlsbad, which is a golf resort, very famous one in California. And there were these 75-year-old women with shaking hands, you know, serving us. And you could tell by the jewelry they were wearing, they were once prosperous, but now they're broke, thanks to Barack Obama. I don't know what it is, but I think that Barack Obama has figured out that they're old Democrats, they're old Republicans, they're not going to change their mind, so he can kick hell out of them, and it's not going to impact how Democrats do at the polls. He's probably right, but it's very cynical, and it's very selfish, and it's very cruel.
Maybe instead of saying let them eat cake, maybe he should be saying let them eat croissants?
Croissants.
See, there you go. Think about that. By the way, just quick 10, 15 seconds. What do you think of this whole thing about the Gallup poll numbers and the CEO saying the unemployment numbers are all wrong, all a lie?
Well, the unemployment numbers are all wrong, but it isn't like someone's cooking the numbers. Back in the day, you know, when only 5% of adult males didn't work, you know, focusing on that headline number makes sense. But if the same percentage of Americans were working today as when Barack Obama took office, the unemployment rate would be almost 10%, about where he started out. He's made no real progress other than encouraging young people to take out loans, to stay in school and live off that, and essentially giving out food stamps and Medicaid to middle-aged folks.
And that's the last word because we're all out of time, right up against it. Peter Morici, thanks a lot for joining us. MidPoint